Darius and Maya Coleman stood together in their living room, surrounded by memories carefully built over 8 years. Sunlight streamed through wide windows, reflecting off freshly painted walls and polished hardwood floors. The house smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and new beginnings. Every detail had been prepared for the appraiser's visit. This home represented more than property. It was proof of sacrifice. Darius, a senior software engineer, had spent years working late nights to secure promotions. Maya, a marketing consultant who ran her own small business, balanced demanding clients while managing their household. Together, they had transformed the modest suburban home outside Denver into something warm, modern, and valuable. They were preparing to sell because a new opportunity awaited them in Seattle. A larger position for Darius and expanded business prospects for Maya. The housing market was strong, and their real estate agent assured them their home should easily appraise above $600,000. Slew. Everything looks perfect, Maya said, adjusting a decorative pillow on the couch. Darius smiled. Feels strange leaving this place. They remembered moving in when the paint was chipped and the backyard uneven. Weekends were spent planting trees, installing shelves, and slowly turning the house into something uniquely theirs. Friends gathered there for holidays. Family stayed in the guest room. Every corner carried laughter. A black SUV pulled into the driveway. The appraiser's here, Maya said. Darius opened the door with confidence. The man introduced himself as Richard Hawley, polite, professional, clipboard in hand. He walked through each room carefully, measuring spaces, taking notes, occasionally nodding without expression. Darius followed, answering questions about renovations, new kitchen appliances, updated plumbing, energy-efficient windows, and a fully remodeled bathroom completed just 6 months earlier. Richard listened quietly but offered little reaction. Within 40 minutes, he thanked them and left. That seemed quick, Maya said. Matt. Maybe that's normal, Darius replied, though uncertainty lingered. They expected results within a week. When the appraisal report finally arrived, Maya opened the email while sitting at the kitchen counter. Her smile disappeared almost instantly. Why? Darius asked. She turned the laptop toward him. Appraised value. $472,000. Silence filled the room. That has to be wrong, Darius said slowly. The number sat nearly $150,000 below expectations and far below recent sales in their neighborhood. Comparable homes with fewer upgrades had sold for much more. They reread the report repeatedly, searching for explanations. The listed comparisons seemed outdated. Renovations were barely mentioned. Positive features were minimized. Confusion turned into frustration. Their real estate agent, Karen Lopez, reacted immediately when they called. This doesn't make sense, she said, after reviewing the report. Your upgrades alone should increase value significantly. Karen pulled recent neighborhood data and confirmed their concerns. Similar homes had appraised far higher within months. You can request a reconsideration, she explained. But honestly, sometimes it's easier to order a second appraisal. Darius frowned. Why would there be such a huge difference? Karen hesitated before answering carefully. Appraisals are supposed to be objective, but they involve human judgment. The implication hung unspoken. That evening, Maya sat quietly at the dining table, scrolling through articles online. Stories appeared one after another, homeowners describing suspiciously low appraisals, many sharing a common detail. Photos removed. Homes reappraised. Values increased. Maya looked up slowly. Darius, I think we should try something. Third, the plan felt uncomfortable from the beginning. They packed away family photographs, wedding pictures, framed vacations. Portraits showing generations of Black relatives smiling proudly. Cultural artwork was removed from walls. Books and decor reflecting their identity were boxed carefully. The house suddenly felt unfamiliar, empty. Karen suggested asking a colleague, Ethan Caldwell, to stand in during the second appraisal. Ethan, a white friend and fellow real estate professional, agreed immediately after hearing their situation. "This is ridiculous," he said, "but if it helps prove something, I'm in." On appraisal day, Darius and Maya left early, watching from down the street as Ethan greeted the new appraiser at the door. Waiting felt unbearable. Hours passed slowly at a nearby cafe. Maya stirred her coffee without drinking it. "I hate this," she admitted. "It feels like we're pretending not to exist in our own home." Darius nodded. "I know." The realization hurt deeply that identity itself might influence value more than renovations or hard work. Late afternoon, Ethan called. "Well," he said carefully, "that was different." "How?" Maya asked immediately. The appraiser spent almost twice as long here, asked detailed questions about upgrades, took tons of photos, kept complimenting the neighborhood. Darius exchanged a glance with Maya. Hope mixed with anger. The second report arrived 5 days later. Maya hesitated before opening it, bracing herself. Then she gasped. "Appraised value? $612,000. Darius stared at the screen, stunned. The difference was $140,000. Same house. Same neighborhood. Same upgrades. Only one major change who appeared to live there. Neither of them spoke for several moments. The number confirmed what they feared, but never wanted proven. Maya felt tears forming, not from relief, but from exhaustion. "So our home was worth less because of us." Darius exhaled slowly, struggling to process the weight of it. Years of effort. Careful renovations. Financial discipline. All quietly discounted. Karen encouraged them to file a formal complaint. She connected them with a housing advocacy organization experienced in appraisal discrimination cases. The investigation required documentation. Both appraisal reports, renovation records, communication timelines, and Ethan's written statement. As experts reviewed the files, patterns emerged quickly. The first appraisal relied on distant comparison properties in lower valued areas, while the second used accurate nearby sales. Renovations previously ignored were now fully credited. The differences were impossible to justify objectively. News of their case slowly gained attention within local housing networks. Researchers explained how appraisal bias could reinforce wealth gaps, affecting generational equity and financial mobility. For Darius and Maya, however, the issue felt deeply personal. One evening, sitting on their back patio, Maya said quietly, "We did everything right." Darius nodded. "And still had to prove we belonged." The experience changed how they viewed success. Hard work alone did not always guarantee fairness. Systems shaped outcomes in ways many people never noticed. Months later, their home sold successfully at full market value. The new buyers loved the space immediately, praising the warmth and care evident throughout the house. On closing day, Maya walked through each room one last time. The walls once again displayed their photographs and artwork. The home finally looked like theirs again. She realized something important. The house had never lost value. The first appraisal had simply failed to see it. Before leaving, Darius paused near the doorway. "This place gave us a lot," he said softly. Maya smiled. "Net. And maybe it helped change something too." Their complaint eventually led to an official review of the original appraiser's practices. Regulatory agencies announced additional bias training requirements and stricter review processes. While the outcome didn't erase what happened, it created accountability. Friends and strangers reached out after hearing their story, sharing similar experiences. Many had stayed silent before, unsure whether what they experienced was real or provable. Darius began speaking openly about the issue at technology and housing events, emphasizing transparency and data-driven evaluations. Maya wrote an article describing the emotional impact of feeling invisible within systems meant to measure fairness. The response was overwhelming. People wanted conversations that had long been avoided. Months later, settled into their new Seattle home, Darius stood near another window overlooking a different skyline. The move represented progress, but the lesson stayed with him. Value, he realized, was not always determined by effort or investment alone. Sometimes it depended on whether systems recognized humanity equally. But awareness created change. And change began when silence ended. Maya joined him, handing over 2 cups of coffee. "New chapter," she said. Darius smiled, looking around their new space filled again with photographs, culture, and identity, proudly visible. This time, nothing would be hidden. Because a home's true worth was never just measured in dollars. It was measured in the lives lived inside it, and no appraisal could ever truly calculate that. Life in Seattle moved faster than either Darius or Maya expected. The city felt different from Denver, cooler air, constant movement, and an energy shaped by technology and ambition. The new home overlooked a quiet street lined with tall evergreen trees. And every morning fog rolled gently between buildings before disappearing under soft sunlight. It should have felt like a simple, fresh start, yet the experience they carried with them refused to fade quickly. At first, they focused on settling in. Boxes filled every room, each labeled carefully during the move, but still overwhelming to unpack. Maya arranged bookshelves, while Darius assembled furniture, both working silently at times, lost in thought. Every photograph they placed on the walls felt symbolic now. Months earlier, they had removed those same images to test a painful theory. Putting them back up felt like reclaiming something that should never have needed protection. One evening, while organizing paperwork, Darius came across both appraisal reports again. He stared at the numbers side by side, 2 drastically different valuations of the same home. The contrast still felt unreal. "It still bothers you, doesn't it?" Maya asked gently from across the room. "Yeah," he admitted. "Not just the money. The idea that someone walked into our home and saw less value because of who lived there." Maya nodded slowly. "I keep thinking about how many people never get a second chance to prove it." That thought stayed with them. They realized their situation had ended well because they had resources, knowledge, and support. Many families might accept the first appraisal without question, losing opportunities quietly without ever knowing why. A few weeks later, Maya received an email from a national housing advocacy group asking if she would participate in a panel discussion about appraisal fairness. She hesitated before responding. Sharing their story publicly meant reopening emotions they were still processing. "I don't know if I want to relive it again," she told Darius. He understood completely. "But maybe someone else needs to hear it." After a long pause, she agreed. The virtual panel included housing researchers, policy experts, and homeowners from across the country. Listening to others speak, Maya realized how widespread similar experiences were. One family described refinancing struggles. Another spoke about generational wealth lost through undervaluation decades earlier. Each story sounded painfully familiar. Queddy. When it was Maya's turn, she spoke calmly, focusing not on anger, but on clarity. "Our home didn't change," she said. "Only perception changed. That's what made it so hard to accept." Messages flooded the chat afterward, people thanking her for explaining something they had struggled to put into words themselves. Many admitted they had doubted their own experiences until hearing hers. After the panel ended, Maya sat quietly, feeling both heavy and relieved. Speaking out had turned frustration into purpose. Meanwhile, Darius found his new role at work increasingly meaningful. His company encouraged community engagement, and he proposed building a data analysis project focused on identifying inconsistencies in housing evaluations. Using anonymized public records, the idea gained immediate support. Working alongside analysts and researchers, Darius examined patterns across thousands of property valuations. The data revealed trends that mirrored his personal experience, neighborhoods with similar structures showing unexplained value gaps tied to demographic shifts. Seen numbers confirm lived reality gave him mixed emotions. Validation felt important, but it also revealed how deeply rooted the issue remained. One afternoon during a team meeting, a colleague asked, "Do you ever regret going through all that?" Darius thought carefully before answering. "No," he said finally. "I regret that it happens. But not that we faced it. Because now we understand something we can help change." Outside of work, life slowly returned to normal rhythms. Weekend walks through local markets, dinners with new friends, and quiet evenings at home helped restore balance. Yet, the experience had reshaped how they viewed everyday interactions. They noticed subtle dynamics they once ignored: who was trusted immediately, who was questioned longer, who was assumed to belong. Awareness, once gained, never fully disappeared. One rainy afternoon, Maya received a handwritten letter forwarded from their old Denver address. Inside was a note from the family who had purchased their previous home. They wrote about how much they loved the space, how neighbors welcomed them warmly, and how the backyard had already hosted birthday celebrations. They thanked Darius and Maya for maintaining the home so beautifully. Maya smiled while reading it aloud. "It makes me happy," she said softly, "that the house keeps creating good memories." Darius nodded. That's what mattered most, anyway. The letter reminded them that despite everything, the home story continued positively. The value they placed into it, care, effort, love, remained visible to those willing to see it honestly. Months later, regulatory updates influenced by cases like theirs began appearing in housing news. New guidelines encouraged clearer appraisal documentation and secondary review options for disputed valuations. While progress felt gradual, it signaled movement in the right direction. One evening, sitting by their living room window as Seattle rain tapped gently against the glass, Maya reflected aloud. "You know what surprises me most?" she said. "I used to think fairness was automatic if you worked hard enough. Now I realize fairness sometimes needs people to demand it." Darius smiled thoughtfully. "And sometimes it starts with just asking questions." Slots. They sat quietly, watching city lights shimmer through the rain. The anger that once dominated their thoughts had softened into determination. Their experience no longer felt like a personal injustice alone. It had become part of a broader understanding of how systems evolve when challenged. Their new home gradually filled with laughter again, friends visiting, music playing during dinners, future plans discussed comfortably. The sense of belonging returned stronger than before because it was no longer dependent on external validation. Late that night, Darius walked through the house, turning off lights before bed. He paused briefly in the hallway, looking at framed photographs lining the walls, family gatherings, vacations, milestones captured in moments of joy. This time, there was no hesitation about displaying them. No thought of hiding identity to protect value. The lesson they carried forward was simple but powerful. Worth was never defined by someone else's limited perception. Systems could misjudge, overlook, or undervalue, but truth eventually revealed itself through persistence and courage. A seat turned off the final light. Darius felt a quiet sense of peace. Their journey had begun with disbelief and frustration, but it ended with clarity and growth. And somewhere, perhaps in another city, the family facing a similar moment might question an unfair result instead of accepting it. Because stories like theirs proved that sometimes the difference between injustice and change was the willingness to look deeper and refuse silence.